Welcome to the Mystical Power of Women, Evolutionary Women, Revolutionary Results. And I'm your host, Sherry Lynn. I welcome you to sit back, to relax, and to open yourself up to this sacred, mystical conversation. I am so excited to announce today's guest, Loren Ellis Galey. She has just so graciously, said yes to me. And so let me tell you a little bit about Loren. Loren is on a mission to empower New Earth leaders. She is known as a mentor's mentor, assisting those who are ready to step into their divine role to get their service or product out into the world. As a former radio and television journalist and anchor, Loren now uses the many tools of media production in support of New Earth broadcasting. She is a sound healer audio producer, creator of Plant Music Remedy, and hosts the popular podcast series that's reached over 2.2 million viewers. That is amazing. You can find Loren's podcast, Quantum Conversations, on YouTube, SoundCloud, and her online platform, New Earth One Network. Loren, I am so very honored to have you here with me today, and I can hardly wait to see where this conversation goes. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Sherry. I am so honored to be here. I am truly honoring your work that you are doing as you step up into your heart calling. That's the name of the game.
Yeah. You know, I just want to share with viewers a little bit about you that I really didn't know Loren. I attended her online New Earth One programs that she was hosting, and I purchased some of the things, and I always was drawn to your energy. And that's one thing, you know, we resonate with people, so I resonated with you. And then I just had this inner voice that kept saying, reach out to her. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to reach out to somebody that doesn't even know me for this little thing that I'm just starting. And you know what? I just want to tell you viewers that she said yes. So follow your heart and that intuition that is guiding you, because it will not mislead you. So again, from my heart to yours, I truly, sincerely thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I thank you equally. And that is you listening to the call of your heart and your higher self. And that's what I learned along my way as well. And that's where we are here today, because we follow that inner voice.
Right.
That voice is the wisdom within us, and we know what to do.
Yes. And my standard question is, in what, like your life experiences, how have they prepared you for the role of the modern day mystic, or the role of, that heart-centered divine being that you are, to put your message out in the world? How did they all shape you?
Wow. Well, it's a story of like looking at when I was 8 years old, when every girl and every boy is 8 years old. We know exactly who we are. We're very comfortable in our skin. And when we look later in life at what our passion is, we look back at those years. And so at those years, for me, I was walking around with a tape recorder, one of those those cassette tape recorders. I was recording Elvis Presley on the TV and making my own little edits on tape. Then I got into college, and that's when we used the tape. It's very analog. So I was always drawn to the media at a very young age. I wanted to be a singer. I'd sing all the time, until one day I recorded myself on that tape recorder, and I was flabbergasted. I was like, uh-oh, I better change careers. So I just knew that I was, when we were in school and we were having the training of nuclear, I don't know if you went to school and they had the drills, if there's a nuclear strike, get under your desk. And that scared me at that time. And so I knew, wow, if that happens, I'm going to be helping. I'm going to be helping the people. So at that very young age, I always knew that I was going to do something in the news. And I did. I got into the news. This is another story as we get into my father and my birth dad. But you know, when I was that little girl, my stepdad, who was in my life since I was 3, my stepdad and my mom, it was a really rough childhood. And I always heard an inner voice saying, you'll get through this. This half of your life may be tough, but I promise you the next half will be perfect. It'll be great. And that gave me great coping skills. So I coped with it and I coped with it and I coped with it. And then in high school, I really wanted something. And it's only now in hindsight, since you asked me the question, that I was able to contemplate, wow, that really did play a role. I was in high school and I was in the marching band, and I wanted to be one of the flag girls or the rifle line, which is the spinning wooden, I don't
Yes.
even know why they have those, drum and bugle corps. So, but my stepfather was very, very strict and would not let me stay after school 5 days a week. I don't know if he was not, I don't know what his issue was, but he wouldn't let me. So here I was at a disadvantage, but I really wanted to be on the rifle line. And there were only 3 girls that would get selected this year to join an 8-member rifle line. So there were like 16 girls all trying out, and I could only go 2 days a week to the practices. So the rest of the time I would be in my backyard. I didn't even have one of the wooden rifles that used to spin around 100 times on each arm. I had a baton, which is totally different, or a broomstick. And that's what I would do. And something within me said, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And I ended up making the team. And they were looking at me like, you are not coming every week or every day of the week. You need to come every day. And I said, my dad won't let me. Please let me try, let me try, let me try. And I made it. I got selected as a rifle member. And then the next year I was the rifle sergeant, and that was really great. So that was like the first time in my life that I really felt the power and listening to the inner voice, listening to that inner voice. So then as I graduate, I go to college to study journalism, and I just go forward. I get an internship at CNN after college. I pack up my 280Z car and I move to Washington, D.C. from Boulder, Colorado. And that was a really interesting, hard, difficult time, working 2 jobs, working an internship 40 hours a week with no pay, then having to go work in a restaurant till midnight and then doing it all over the next day. So that was very interesting. I went door to door after the internship ended. I went door to door in the National Press Club building with my resume. And I'm a very shy person. So for me to do that, that was again, this inner voice that said, just go do it. And I got a job. I got a job from doing that. So that was interesting. So I got a job in media in Washington, D.C. And then something happened in my life where a little bit of trauma, and I really needed my sister. So I reached out to my sister and she said, hey, why don't you come for Thanksgiving? I'm meeting our birth dad. She had kept up a relationship with him. And she said, please come and join in and hang out with us over Thanksgiving. So I did. And he invited me to Taiwan because he's a computer music researcher. And he was working in Taiwan, setting up their computer music research lab. So I go, and I thought I was going to be there for a month, and I ended up being there 2 years.
Wow.
Yes. And so that was like a soul leap or a quantum leap. And it changed my life. And that was the void that my birth dad filled in for me. And I got a job in radio, and I was in Taiwan. And then I was out at a party and I met my future husband, because he recognized my voice from the radio, and he's like, hey, you're that lady on the radio. And it turns out he and I went to the same high school in Boulder, Colorado.
No.
Yes. And so that was kind of like, hey, so that was really fun. And so then long story short, he was moving to Guam. I moved to Guam. Then I got involved in television. And then the television, looking at the way the egos are in television, it was a bit too much for this gentle
Yeah,
soul. And
I
so
know.
years, I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't handle it. It was
Yeah.
really fun and really invigorating. And that was a dark night of the soul, having to kind of step back and say, wow, everything I've worked for, everything I've thought,
Mm-hmm.
put back, and I'm no longer doing it. And I went into sales and made money in sales. And I knew someday leaving that media, because I'm lying on my bed crying, like, oh, but I heard again that voice deep inside me
Yeah.
that said, one day you'll be back. One day you'll be back. One day. And so I was
Oh,
like, okay. And I didn't know, I thought it was going to be documentaries or some other form. Little did I know it was going to be this world of podcasts, or, now we were waiting so long for the webinars to turn into video, and now that they're video,
mhm.
and who knows in 10 years what it's going to be like. But I just followed these inner calls all along the way. So I started
Yeah.
with it was healing conversations at first,
Mm-hmm.
because I knew this world, people in this world get beaten up, and we have to
Right.
come and decompress and heal from that. So
Absolutely.
when the world of podcasts came open in like 2005, I think it was Blog Talk Radio. I
Mm.
got my Blog Talk Radio account, and I just started interviewing people. I went
Good
to
job.
Kahu Fred Sterling's event in Las Vegas, and I
Mhm.
put my reporter hat on, and I went to him and I said, I'd like to interview you. And it was easy as pie. And so I interviewed him, and I interviewed all these beautiful people, Jim Self and all these people. And in my journalistic mode, I would just go through the motions. And as soon as I did an interview, I would get it out that same day, because in the television world, you get your interview, and the radio news, you get it out the same day. And
Mm-hmm.
so then I kept asking myself, well, how do I monetize my radio show? How do I
Mm-hmm.
monetize? How do I monetize? And I kept seeing three different signs, three different models of various people who were out in the field doing it. And I just was looking at it sideways going, okay, okay. Then I go to a trip in Peru, and that was 11/11/11. And I get back from that trip, and I hear, stop. I had interviewed a beautiful person, and I was going through the motions, and I heard very loudly and clearly, stop. And then I was given this image of one thing that I could do to back up, slow down, put these steps in place, do it in a little bit different way, and watch what happens. And I did that. And I've never turned back. It was really beautiful how it just sets it up into a business model that I decided to follow. And so these were the angels giving me the path all along, but I just wasn't listening. And so
Mm-hmm.
once I decided to listen, after that magical trip to Peru, doing ceremony to Pachamama and praying and asking to be in service, to be of service, it came together very quickly, and it's evolved ever since. But then another deep, that was 2011, 2 years earlier, in 2009, when that I call it an oil volcano in the Gulf of Mexico that was
Mm-hmm.
going on, and they couldn't stop, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
spewing oil. That was an awakening for me as well. And I remember driving my car up in the mountains, tears streaming down my face, just like, okay, I'm ready to help. What do I do? How do I help? How do I help? I'm ready to be in service. And I think at the time, I don't say this anymore, at the time, there was still something in me that said, how do I help save the world? I
Mm-hmm.
know that we're
Mm-hmm.
not here to save the world, but to be in service. And I
Right.
heard one word, I heard the one word, webinars.
Yeah.
I'm driving, and I'm like, and I had already been doing webinars a little bit on a business level, right? With realtors,
Mm-hmm.
training realtors. And so this is like before I actually stepped in. I was doing healing conversations a little bit,
Yeah.
but I heard webinars, and I go, really? How am I going to save the world with webinars? And I kept hearing it again, webinars.
Yeah.
And I'd go, come on, how am I going to save the world with webinars? And then the picture unveiled itself, and here we are today. Oh my
Does.
gosh, 12 years
Yeah.
later it is. And 13 years, oh my God, I don't even want to count. But that right there because I was open to it and I was listening to it, it unfolded, the imagery unfolded within my mind. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So then it was just one foot in front of the other, going down and then going to Peru, of course. And then the inner guidance, the going within. Then I saw, I think it was in 2015, I was doing a couple of different meditation processes on the same day. And I got the image. And I learned, in hindsight, it was Jwal Cool. He's one of my guides. And I feel very close to him. I know he's just another aspect of myself. But that was Jwal Cool who had said webinars, and also my higher self, and it was very blunt. They didn't give me any other words. They just said webinar. So anyway, that was really cool. And then the guidance I was given for New Earth One Network is beyond me. I transcended competition because as that journalist, it is inbred within you. There's no such thing as a news team. They call yourself a news team, but within the newsroom, you're all competing with every other journalist.
Yes.
Saw that all along the way. So it was like, okay. So so New Earth One Network transcended my sense of competition because it was created for all of us.
Right.
And all teachers. And it's not about me. So yes, I have acoustic health with my podcast, but New Earth One Network is a teaching platform for New Earth. And part of the things that I teach when I work with clients in helping them bring forward their passion and create a structure for it, it's, you know, I'd say write on in your book, get a notepad without lines and just write all these ideas down and date it. And I would flip back and I would see how it was coming about and how a year would go by and then another year goes by and then something would kick me in the astral and I'd be like, okay, time to get it moving. And then we got the website kind of playing around, tinkering around with the website. We can spend a lot of time on these things. And then 2020 comes about. 2020, where the whole world has shifted. We are in the shift. We are not going backwards. But that 2020 was like, bam, game on. And that was the launch in March of New Earth One Network. I just plugged in the cord and said, let's go, baby. So that was very exciting. And so that's my journey.
Yeah. That's so beautiful though, too, that you listen, because something is coming to me too, like with 2020, and you were talking about one thing I would love to share with you is when I was doing my Reiki at the final level, and we did this meditation beforehand and to get guidance. And I remember I was hearing something like, I'm here to help people transition. And I'm very sensitive, just like you. And I thought, I don't think I can do that. And I was like resisting it, but that was before, it was actually before 2020. It was before we had COVID. And then when COVID came, it's like, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense to me now, is that my higher self was guiding me and letting me know you were going to help people transition into this new way of being. And even the words new way of being kept coming to me too. And it's funny. So when our higher self, because I know you're really guided by your higher self, and I'm getting there now. I'm learning to trust now. And it is amazing what happens when we start to listen, because life really does show up with multiple synchronicities, doesn't it? All the time. Like you put an idea out or an idea comes and then something supports it. You get confirmation. And I think that's important. Like if you're okay, I would love to explore that a little bit more too, because, well, first of all, I know that if you don't mind me taking you back a little bit and talking about your dad, because I know that you and your dad didn't have a really healthy relationship. And so part of the mystic is all about the heart. It's the way of the heart. The mystic is about the heart. And you're very heart-centered. I get that from you. That's why I think I was so drawn to you. And yet, our personal self gets stuck in the story. And so you, Loren, as a young 18-year-old, when you first formed a relationship with your dad, could have stayed, I'm mad, I'm angry, he doesn't deserve my love, and
Right.
yada, 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 right? And you
Yeah.
could have stayed in this energy and then never discovered who you are today. But you said, even your words were, I took a giant quantum leap. You did, because your heart opened. Forgiveness is the journey. Like, I think each one of us is here. All of us have to learn to forgive. And a lot of times it's not even, it is about being open to just like compassion, I guess it is, and understanding this is a soul journey, feels very personal, but really we've asked for all these things. And so your father fit into your timeline, like Carolyn Mace's sacred contracts would teach me, like I would know instantly by talking to you. Your father had to be out of your life so that he could come into your life at that stage when you were ready. But to discover that gift,
Oh,
forgiveness had to come first.
wow. You are helping me connect the dots. Okay, because here is the stepdad who was in my life since I was 3 years old. And he beat my mom. And I always wanted him to be, I've always encouraged my mom to leave him. Every other weekend, for a certain period of time, we were leaving the house. Back in the day, the police would take the women and children away, not the other way around like today. But
Right.
so I was always like, Mom, come on, let's leave. And she never did. She actually never left him. And they died within 3 months of each other in 2010. So that's
Wow.
my mom and my stepdad.
Yeah.
And that's a whole separate story of healing as well. But my birth dad, so when I met him at first, I was just kind of like, who are you? I don't know who you are. But then when I went through that trauma when I was in DC, and then I went to go see my sister, I actually, because I was vulnerable, yeah, I was date raped, and I was very sad and distraught over that. And so I go to visit my sister, who is at my father's house. I'll call my father, my birth dad, my father. And he invited me to Taiwan. And so when I went to Taiwan, I was kind of looking at him, and I lived with him for a while, but then he left and I stayed in his apartment, which ended up being I went off on my own. But anyway, he got me to Taiwan. And where was I going with that? Sorry, there's so much story.
Yeah, I think the thing is that with your father, we were talking about the resistance at first, and then finding some soft spots, some compassion, some opening. There was an opening in your heart to let him in.
Because of the music. We went
Yeah.
to his office at the Computer Music Research Lab in Taipei, and he played this song. And the song is on at the end of every single quantum conversation, music from the universe. So he plays the song, and I was like, yeah. And it was kind of cool. He plays the song and it looks good, and it sounds good. And he's like, I took an algorithm and I assigned musical notes to it. And this is the song of it. And at the time, my 23-year-old brain was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Then fast forward decades later, I was, a mom with a child. I think I was like 37, 38 years old, right? And he emails me, because this is the world of email now. He emails me an MP3 of that very same song that he played in his computer music research lab. And he and I were becoming friends again, because another friend of mine says, Loren, you have to cultivate that relationship with your father. So I did. And so through this heart opening forgiveness, that relationship turned in. And so when he emailed that, I opened up that song and I played it over and over and over and over and over. And I sat in my office and it spiraled me up. And I just kept listening to it, and it sounded like one of those romance. I remember there was a movie, I can't think of the name, but it sounded like one of those romantic songs. And that was my awakening. And that song is the foundation of acoustichealth.com. So I find that really fascinating.
That is so amazing. And, but that is the human journey. And I wish that is what, if we could only get this, if we could only understand that, if, you hear about people that when things happen and they say, okay, well, you know what, there's a gift. I know there's a gift in it. There really is a gift in it, but it
Oh,
feels so darn personal at the beginning. And so we get stuck in that, what's called the victim, but really it's
or
just where I
decades could go
can't
by.
do anything, right?
Yeah, decades,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so long.
But we're powerful beings. And I see that you are a powerful being, but you didn't know this about yourself, that there was as a young child, you were pretty tapped in, it sounds to me like, I wasn't like that. It took me a lot longer, but I too was actually in a very abusive relationship for many years. It wasn't physical, but it was emotional, and took me a very long time to come to forgiveness. And I remember always pointing the finger and blaming, and it, especially because of one of my children, But I can tell you, Loren, honestly, and meditation, this is where meditation helped, but not the form of meditation that most people think. It's a heart meditation. And it's where we expand, because we hold, I don't know, some of this compassion comes over you. And I could see him, and he built a new life, and he actually had a baby when I think he was in his 50s when he had a baby with this woman he had met. And anyway, I would see him, and I would see his wife, and I would see his daughter, and I would literally hold them in a place of love and compassion. And my heart opened so wide. And that is, I think that's how we get this, to connect with our higher self, that guidance that comes in.
Yeah.
And so each one of us has this path and a timeline, like Carolyn Mays teaches, and so does Crystal, like about the timeline. Crystal Hughes for Academy for the Soul. We talk about timeline events and stuff like that, and they really are important. So people started to recognize that these are pretty significant events that happen, these pivotal moments that feel like very difficult. How am I going to get through it? They're actually something that is there. There's a gift there. And for me, your father, when I was listening to you tell me, but also your recording on the computer that I was listening to, it touched my heart, because you called it a doorway, and you called it a return to love.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. This is a return to love. The mystic is that.
So here's the other part of the story. The stepdad piece
Mhm.
is another return to love that actually took me by surprise.
And
Like
it was
really by surprise, more than the birth.
right.
Birth dad unfolded slowly, and it was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I met my husband. We grew up in the same hometown. And here we are, been married 30 years. And so that's just really interesting in itself with my birth dad. The stepdad at the end of, in 2010, that was just really interesting. My mom was supposed to be here. Finally, she was going to have her freedom.
Mhm.
Finally, she was going to have her freedom. And the night before she transitioned, she called me, and we were talking, and I'll never forget that conversation, because now I know she was already on her way out.
Mhm.
She called all of her children.
Mhm.
And, when she left, I was like, I screamed, "You're supposed to be here."
Mhm.
And so she left before my stepdad. My stepdad hung around for 3 more months. And I got really tired. I went over, I did my duty. It was really hard for me, but I did
Mhm.
a duty, what I feel like I did a duty. I had my husband
Right.
there as a buffer. He was a beautiful buffer for me.
Yeah.
And that was a really challenging time. So
For
then I
sure.
finally decide to take care of myself, and I go to see a really dear friend of mine in Oregon. And it was during that trip that he left the planet. He transitioned, and my husband was there on his last hours to take care of him. What a
Mhm.
beautiful soul my husband is for doing that.
Mhm.
But so in that process, I was kind of like relieved, because, it was really hard growing up with this man who beat my mom,
Yeah.
Not in the later years, but I just remember all of it. And he was sad. He was sorry. He was regretful. He
Mhm.
was human. I saw his humanness in his
Oh,
last days.
oh, you're touching my heart. So,
And
oh,
and then I started to have dreams.
mhm.
And at first I was like, holy you're not allowed in my dreams.
Yeah, you're not the,
I was like,
no,
oh, wait a minute. You're gone. You're
yeah,
not allowed in my dreams.
yeah,
But I have
yeah,
to share the dream because it was so beautiful. And I've
yeah,
interviewed people that have helped me explain or helped explain what was going on. And
yeah,
it's so beautiful and it's so magical that there
yeah.
was incredible healing. And now I
Yes.
recognize him as one of my guides. He's one of my guides.
Oh no,
When I
really?
learned that, I was like,
Wow.
oh, heck no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's,
So the dream, I mean, okay. So in the dream, I'm in the house, I'm in the family house, and I'm running up the stairs, and I go and I'm in his bedroom, and there he is in his bedroom, sitting in a chair. There's nothing else in the bedroom. He's sitting in a chair, a wood back chair, like in your house, and
mhm,
he has no shirt on. He has a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's the young, good-looking 28-year-old guy that he was.
mhm.
Say a word, but it caught my breath. I was like, oh, you're here.
Yeah,
And that just really struck me. I was like, you're here. And he
yeah,
didn't say anything. It didn't say anything, but just being in the energy of that dream,
yeah,
we wake up. And that's when I woke up and I went, oh, hell, what are you doing in my dream? You're not allowed in my dream. And
yeah.
then a couple nights later, another dream.
With him in it again.
Yes, another dream. And he was just there and he was just very present.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
then I was like, wait a minute. And then 2 nights later, a third dream. And there he was again, never saying a word, just emanating this deep love. And it was like,
mm,
I keep having these dreams.
mhm,
Then my back goes out. And
mm.
I could feel like the support of a father not being there to support you anymore. And then I realized, wow,
Right.
that's very interesting. And the same thing happened when my birth dad transitioned 18 months later. My back went
Yeah.
out. Very
Isn't
interesting.
that very, very,
Very,
yeah.
very, very. You're
Well, because
going
energetically, right? Like
energetic.
it makes sense because we think we're physical, but what will the energy field is affected first. So your field was affected, and that's amazing. So you took on so much, but Loren, what you're saying about your stepfather though too in the dreams, the dreams we can heal in many different ways, and dreams can
They were,
be part of the healing.
they were incredibly healing because the dream space is what
Hmm.
opened me up because my waking mental mind was, heck no, you're not
Right,
allowed in my dream. And then
right.
I had a reading with someone, I think it was Marilyn Aloria, and she's like,
Yes.
oh my God, there's somebody here. I didn't tell her a word. She goes,
Yeah.
you know what? Your dad is here. And he keeps pointing to his back. And this is when
Wow.
I didn't tell her I had back problems, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm like crippled right now. And
Wow.
he kept saying, right. He kept saying, right. And that's one thing I haven't been doing. I've been writing my book for 10 years.
So that's gonna,
But no, that was very healing. And she said, he's one of your guides. And I was like,
that's
oh,
so interesting.
but anyway,
That is,
now I get it.
yeah.
And what now I have dreams. He and my mom are in my dreams and we're all getting
Mhm.
along, having fun,
Good.
laughing. I mean, it's amazing.
That's, yeah. And that's beautiful though, because that opened your heart even more, right? Like it allowed your heart to open in more of your higher self, you, who you really are, the essence of Loren, to come in. And healing comes in many different forms, but that's one of them. Can I share something with you that was just so simply like so amazing? And I feel like I still to this day, and it wasn't even that long ago. And my mind is like, I think something happened. Well, I know my heart opened even more. And I keep thinking, I'm like you, I'm so sensitive. It's like, no, it can't get any softer, but it does. It keeps getting softer and softer and softer. But anyway, I live in a really cold climate, like really cold. And it was their first really cold day, and it had been snowing. And I feed the birds. And so I was out front feeding the birds, and this little lady, little Asian lady, all bundled up in her coat, hood on, couldn't see me, walks by because I've sort of tucked up by the house a bit more, and she didn't see me. And she goes to the recycling bin because it was our garbage day. And she's this tiny little woman, and it's almost as big as she is, the bin. And she starts tipping it over to go for cans. And the ego, my personality, didn't want her to see me. And so I just went in through the garage and didn't say anything. And I kid you not, I go in through the garage, and then my higher self says, nope, you're going back out there. And so I go in one door and I go right back out the other door. And I approached her. And had I not approached her, I would have never known this little woman. Her husband had just had bypass surgery, and they're trying to make ends meet.
Mhm.
And see, my heart, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, and my grandma used to always grab my face like this. And I grab this lady's face like this, so gently and softly. And I pull her in just like my grandma would do. And I give her this big hug. And I did that like I think 3 times. And I said, you don't need to do that. And I really didn't have money, but I went inside and gave her what I had. And it just, I swear my heart opened so big. And Loren, I don't even know if she was, you know how they say sometimes you never know what form an angel is going to take?
I was going to say.
I swear that might have been
Mhm.
an angel.
She's an angel, but she brought out your angelness.
Oof. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
both are angels. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just, and it wasn't that long ago. And from that moment on, the guidance has been coming in even more and more and more. And the direction that I'm going, like, who Crystal is, right? And so part of my training, I just did my assessment with her, and she gave me a good reading. And she just said, if you're so busy taking everything that your mind thinks you need to take, you're not going to be available for what's trying to come in and guide you.
Yes, yes.
And so now I'm really opening up to this place where I've always known I wanted to go, but I was resistant in going.
Yes. Okay. The resistance, I wanted to say, resistance is something to look at as well. When I had my vision of what I need to be doing, without saying names, I want to just say there was a platform out there that I wanted to be a part of, but it also irritated me. Again, the feeling of competition was like, ooh. And then when I had the meditation and I saw the vision of what I was to bring forward, I realized I can't be a part of that because I'm supposed to do this here. So that resistance is something to look at as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Anyway, I'm not trying to take you there, but it's so super, like, really, the whole thing about this thing is to get other people to understand. So if I was to say to you right now, Loren, what is your message for people? What do you want people to know? What would that be?
Living in the heart.
Yeah.
Is the way of the future. It is the new way. Living in the heart, it is a requirement.
Yeah.
In the face of everything. And often last year, 2022, was probably the most transformational of my life. There was an activation that occurred for me on the 2nd of February, 2022, that I've never looked back. And it took me by surprise. It came out of the blue, and I didn't know what to do with it. But here again was the heart and the mind juxtaposed. And it had never been juxtaposed so dramatically, because I knew what I felt in my body and I knew what I felt in my heart, but my head was at war with it. And then society's shoulds and all the programs and
Mm-hmm.
vows that we take all
Mm-hmm.
said, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But my heart, every time I tuned into my heart, every time I tuned into my higher self, every time I turned into my guides, every time I turned into my ancestors of my mom, my stepdad, and my birth dad, they all said, you can make whatever you want out of this.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is. This was another major lesson of, are you really going to listen to your heart?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to just do it the way that you think you need to do it? And I'm
Right.
sorry, I can't be more specific because it's highly personal, but it was
Mm-hmm.
were we at war with our head and our heart?
Yes.
Yes, it really was.
Yes.
My head, my personality, my
Yes.
ego was
Yes.
absolutely, but you know what? I'm
Yes.
walking through it.
Yeah.
And at a part of it, walking through it, a part of it took me one way and made me go into my head a little bit more, where I realized just even last week, oh my God, I forgot the ascension part. Always be in the heart.
Right.
Always, no matter
Right.
what. So to
Right.
every single person, respect every single person. And so
Yeah.
that has really helped. So that is my message, is to tune into our hearts so much,
Yeah.
to our higher self. I do hypnosis sessions for people
I
that
saw that.
their higher self comes in.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is the most beautiful thing that I've ever witnessed. It's
Yeah.
different for every single person.
Yeah.
And when I hear, I'm just a facilitator. I'm not bringing
Yes.
in the messages from the higher self.
Right.
They're themselves.
Right.
And
Yes.
every time when we say your higher self, am I talking to the higher self of this
Mhm.
person? Their
Mhm.
voice changes.
Mm.
And I hear the difference. I did this for myself and I heard a difference in my own voice.
Yeah.
People who were in the room, I did it in a group setting and they were like, oh my God, we could feel the energy in the room. It is undeniable when you can sense the confidence, the no nonsenseness of someone's higher self.
Yeah.
And okay, it is full of compassion, but when I mean no nonsense, it'll just say, well, that's what she wants. She
Yeah.
wants to go through that, no matter
Yeah.
how hard it
Yeah.
is. So that's what
Exactly.
I mean by no nonsense. So this,
Yes.
so then what we've learned is, okay, I used to say higher self connection,
Mhm.
connect to higher self, but it
Mhm.
really is embodiment.
Very much so. Thank you for that. Yes. Yes.
And that's the message.
That
If,
is what we're here to do, is to
if all
to
you and I do,
embody it. Sorry,
if
what's that?
if all you and I do and all anybody does on this planet
Yeah.
is do that for ourselves and to assist others to do it, we've
Mhm.
done our job. And
Yeah.
that's actually what we thought we would achieve in Lemuria when we
Yeah.
let the laggards in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
we're still
I
working on
feel
it.
a connection to Lemuria too. So for sure. I feel very deeply connected to you too. So I think there's something there as well. But
Yeah.
that is the soul which we are here to fully embody and express and experience ourselves in our greatest version, in the most loving. And I loved how you said a return to love. So, it's like, oh, that's a good name. Because I know Marianne Williamson has a book like with that titled that, but that's a really good name. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna think, that's a beautiful thing, because that is what we are doing. That's what the energies are allowing all of us to experience ourselves from our heart. And then when we experience that, we have access to our spiritual, that all of that which we are, but we don't feel it, because when we're living in the lower self, in the lower 3 chakra areas, the physical, and only experiencing ourselves as that, we miss out on so much fun and magic. And it's just amazing. Like, it is amazing. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to hurt. There are moments where it really, there's something that, heart hurts and heart feels, but it also knows.
It also knows.
Yeah.
It also knows. And no
Yeah.
matter how hard it may be the heart may hurt because of our clinging to the
Exactly.
penalty.
Right.
And in part of this past year, I realized my heart will be the only heart that hurts in this process. That was almost like a bodhisattva vow. And then I stopped myself and said, whoa, wait a minute. No, I'm not here to save anybody else
Right.
their heartache, because I'm going to be in my heart.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when I realized that, it was like, wow, okay. And I've learned this: we cannot stop anybody from their own ascension, from their own journey from the head into the heart.
Oh, I know.
So if I say, well, I'm in my heart now, and it hurt to get there, because it hurt to let go. Like when the pandemic came on, that first 6 months, that was grieving for many of us. We were all
Yes.
grieving. We were grieving the end of that old world.
Right.
And so why are we going to stop anybody else from their grieving? We can't do that. But if we're fully in our heart, then we're an example of standing in the heart, no matter what, and
Right.
just supportive for other people.
Right.
Mhm.
So as we come to an end, though, I am very curious about something, though, too, and I would love to hear what you do, because do you kind of shut out a lot of the news and a lot of that kind of stuff, and not really take it all in, so that you can be holding that space for or are you one that can actually read these stories and hear them? Like, I can't listen to the news. I can maybe read something and then go and hold space and sending love. But to listen to the news is just like, no, I cannot do that.
And I come from that. So
Yeah.
you know what, when I left the news, I was a different person when I left the news. So being a news reporter, I've wondered, contemplated, do I need to teach a course on discernment in the news? And yes, I keep getting yes.
Then
So
you
I how
should.
popular it would be, but this keeps
Yes.
coming up, it keeps presenting. And this
I
is
think you should.
I think I'm being kicked in the astral to do so. And so it's discernment. It's a discernment, because I've seen, as a student of journalism, and then my first job that I got out of the Washington, D.C., I saw how corporations were buying the news. But nowadays you've got social media, got a whole section of people who don't want to pay any attention to the mainstream media, but they'll listen to any Tom, Dick, and Harry with 20 subscribers on a YouTube channel.
I know.
That's the discernment that needs to be going on. That's a whole separate topic. What
Yeah.
I do in the news is because I come from, I mean, being in a newsroom, we'd have to go cover typhoons and hurricanes and earthquakes. And you'd have to go up to someone who's just lost their home. Hi, I'm from the news. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And go ask, and that just hurt, right?
Yeah.
And so to see other reporters doing it for their ego, and the way that reporters, television, okay, so newspaper, print is one thing. The egos of the reporters are very even keeled. Radio, the egos in radio is a little bit more, because you're heard, your voice is heard.
Right.
Television is the cream of the crop. Egos, right? Like, boom.
Right. Well,
So
that makes sense.
yeah, because it's all like, so when I started, and I started in print, it's the word, and you're writing every sentence perfectly. Then on the radio, it's your voice. You can't be your voice. But with video, it's your face.
Yeah. And there's some
in place.
Yeah.
And so it's just different, and the egos get so elevated. So when I left the media, I could not watch television news.
Right.
Yes, I would watch CBS Evening News, 30 minutes a day. That's all anybody ever needs.
Yeah.
But then it was really dramatic. So when COVID came, I would check in. And I actually saw it coming down the pike months before other people did. And I was like, uh-oh, watch out for that. And then I would be somewhere and I'd see someone in a crowd looking at the TV screen and making a comment. And I'm like, uh-oh, watch out for that. And here we are today. So I would watch like CBS Evening News. And then what I'd start with ABC, and he was so dramatic, that guy, that it was like, wow, that's so dramatic. I can't handle it. The music is
right.
And it's like, oh, it's not that dramatic, everyone. It's really not that dramatic. Then I switched to Lester Holt and he was a little softer. And then I switched to a lady and it was like, wow, it's so refreshing to have the
Yeah.
lady national
Yeah.
news. Now I don't listen to any of it.
Right.
And I did just go to reading. I read my local newspaper and I read The Guardian, which now I have a bone to pick with The Guardian, because now I can see how headlines and how sentences within the news article are slanted and biased. And it's like,
But
wow, okay, that's too much. So yes, every day I peek at the news,
yeah,
but I
you
look
know,
at the news for New Earth.
yeah, I
The
love
way
that.
we see New Earth coming. When there's ways that people begin to protect the environment, or you zoom out and you look at the collective, there's a lack of tolerance for certain types of behaviors. So when I look at the news, and then it empowers me to get on with my day. And I tell my husband every day, what I do with my radio show is like what keeps me going.
Yeah,
Keeps
yeah,
me going, and I will always do it because it is the flip side of the news. It is.
absolutely.
And when people come on my show and they bring in the lower conspiracy theory, denser stuff, it's popular. If I wanted to have a great YouTube channel, I would be all over that and I'd have millions of viewers on YouTube, but I
Right.
don't. It's a
No.
higher elevation.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
you can
you do.
also look at the news and you can give love and energy and transmute. So that's
Exactly.
light workers. If we choose to peek at the news,
Yeah,
I think it's a good thing to keep your finger on the pulse
right,
and
right,
tune in when you get scared and fearful. And it really
right.
does make you fearful. It
It,
really.
it does. So there, like, that's very interesting what you're sharing. But the first thing that is, like, if for people, when we do view it, is it's almost like a form of prayer. Prayer, not the religious connotation of prayer. There's a different contemplative, heart-centered, where you go into your heart and you really feel the person and you send them love. And you remember when the little children were taken away from their parents and stuff. I used to go into meditation and I would hold them and I would cuddle them and I would soothe them. And, like, that's just as real, because it's our consciousness that is literally healing others.
And the dolphins, I get this asked a lot. What about all the dolphins that are being killed, or the whales that beach themselves? Or so many other stories that weigh heavy on our heart. That is a soul contract. There's that word again. And they're doing their job of waking us up, putting us
Right,
in our heart even more,
right.
putting us in our heart.
And bless you for that one, because the truth is that when we see people that are doing things that we truly don't understand, we don't understand the big grand picture. We only have our personal self that's viewing it from very itty bitty tiny little lens, and we do not understand how this is all unfolding, so that we can all soften and awaken and open our hearts and have that compassion and that love and unity consciousness. Yeah. So, I so truly honor everything that you are doing. And it's just like, thank you for saying yes to, well, not only me, but you. Like,
Okay.
literally saying yes to you to do these big things and bring on these people, and just important topics that people start to open themselves up to, because that's really what it is, right? Is being curious and allowing. It's like, okay, I'm curious.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, Loren, I would love to just give you just a few minutes. And if there's anything else that you want to share with the viewers, let them know how they can. I'm going to post information about you and your website and everything. But I truly encourage people to go and check out your platform. Go find you on YouTube and go watch some of these conversations. Some might not be for you, but a lot will be. And I would just love to let you share whatever it is that you would like to say to the viewers.
Oh, well, thanks for your bright light and your love. We've got this. And every person watching is a New Earth leader. And we thank you too for your bright light and your love. Tune in to New Earth One Network on YouTube, or New Earth One one, O-N-E, newearth1.com, and acoustichealth.com. These platforms are heart-based living platforms with information for everyone. And if anyone would like a higher self connection hypnosis session, that is so beautiful. And if I can support anyone in their teachings, please reach out to me and share. If I know that there's healers and light workers and teachers that are watching you. And for those who are ready, that's what New Earth One is for. And Sherry, when you're ready to share your skills, New Earth One is waiting for you too. It is an
Aw.
honor for us.
Thank you, Loren. This was a beautiful conversation. Thank you for being so authentic and vulnerable and opening your heart to all of us.
Thank you,
I
Sherry.
send you all love, peace, and blessings. Namaste, beautiful ones. Bye for now.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.